Welcome to my video. In this video we're going to be looking at subroutines for AQA's GCSE in computer science. This is part 1 of a 2-part video. What is a subroutine? A subroutine is a block of code that has its own unique name. Subroutines are used to break down larger problems into smaller, more manageable tasks. Here in this example I have a subroutine called user_generate, and this subroutine's job is to generate the username for students that are within the school. Now if we think about a school, there's more than one student, so this piece of code is going to need to be run multiple times, and this is one of the great advantages of subroutines. So you can see on lines 8, 9, 10 and 11 I call that subroutine and pass it various parameters. So the first time on line 8 I pass it Tommy for F name, I pass it Smith for S name, and I pass it 2016 for the year that Tommy joined the school. When I run that I get 16 T Smith. If I was to run line 9, it would call again the subroutine user_generate and it would pass in Ellie Perkins 2020, and you can see it generates Ellie's username, and it would do the same for Laura Bradley and the same for Nick Hill. A great thing about subroutines is that because we're able to break a larger problem down to smaller, more manageable tasks, it means that we can focus on a small part of a program, or multiple people can work on the same program and build different parts, and we can bolt it together later. So on the previous slide you saw that I made a username generator. Now if you look at this one here, I've actually got 3 subroutines. One collects first names and surnames, the next one collects the year that the student joined the school, and then the final one is basically the user_generate from the previous page. Okay? So I've bolted those together. Now, if multiple people worked on that, that would mean the development would be faster because we could work on them simultaneously. Let's take a look at how this program would work then. So here, it would run the while true loop on line 16. Okay? And this means that it would run forever because that statement is always true. And the only time that would stop is if I physically turn the computer off the program was running on. So, on line 17, look, it calls the subroutine collect data, and there it would ask for a first name and a surname from the user. Okay, I've got some variables on line 18 and 19 where I store the return data. We'll talk about returns later. It then comes down to line 20, and on line 20 it collects the year that the student joined the school. It then finally comes down to line 21 and it passes in 3 pieces of data, and that's called parameter passing. Okay, and it then generates the username for the student. So how would you go about making a subroutine? Well, the first thing you need to do is define a subroutine. We use the word def, and this means it's a user-defined subroutine. It's been created by the programmer. Okay, then you give it a name. So here, mine's called username generator. Okay, now here I've got something called parameters. Okay, and parameters are information that is passed into the subroutine that the subroutine needs in order to work out or complete the task in hand. Without those, it wouldn't be able to do it and you'd get an error message. Now some subroutines don't need any parameters at all. For example, collect data here doesn't need any parameters. If you call it, it will run without being passed any information. However, user_generate requires a first name, a surname and a year. So here, to satisfy that, I am passing the 3 parameters of Tommy, Smith and 2016. Let's take a look at the advantages of subroutines. The first one you already know. It's taking a large problem and breaking it down into smaller, manageable tasks. The next one is reducing repeat or duplicate code. If we look at lines 2 to 13, that's my menu. Imagine I needed to call it 50 times. If I didn't use a subroutine, I would have to write out lines 2 to 13 50 times. Potentially, I could copy it down wrong, or if I was copying and pasting it, it would take me absolutely ages, so it would be a waste of my time. Instead, we can place that code within a subroutine, as shown on line 1, def menu. I can then call that menu as many times as I need, as shown on line 15. The next one is, the code can be reused across the program. And that's similar to what I just said. Lines 15, I'm calling the menu. I can use that line of code every time I need to call the menu, and it will call that menu. Also, if I was going to reuse it in another program, I could take that menu, put it into another program, and it would call exactly the same way. It would save me having to rewrite it. It allows multiple people to work on the same problem. Well, this is great because It means that I can work on the menu while somebody else works on maybe the user generator, or somebody else works on collecting the information from the users. This is particularly good when you've got a tight time frame. It also speeds up the development time. Also, debugging and maintenance of the program and improvement is a lot easier. For example, this menu here on the left hand side is inside of my subroutine. Let's say that the boss came along and said, right, we don't have option 2 anymore, we need to remove it. Now if I had done what I said earlier, where I'd got 50 copies of this menu, lines 2 to 13, well then I'd have to make 50 changes, wouldn't I? I'd have to go and remove any reference to option 2 50 times. But because here it's maintained inside of a subroutine, I can change it once, which means that the maintenance is a lot easier and making improvements is a lot easier, because I improve it in one location, it improves it across the whole program. Also, if there's a problem with that section of code, I'm only looking at that one area, so again debugging is a lot easier. Let's recap what a subroutine is. A subroutine is a block of code that has a unique name. Subroutines are used to break down large problems into smaller, more manageable tasks. They reduce repeat and duplicate code. They allow for easy reuse of code within the same program or within another program. They allow multiple users to work on the same program at the same time. It increases the speed of development and makes code easier to debug, maintain and improve. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. Please remember to check out our other videos within our playlist.